Well, welcome everyone to our special show and tell pop-up series, Early Childhood Innovation for Impact in a Crisis. My name is Kylie Burke. I'm the Senior Advisor with Promise Venture Studio and a lifelong early childhood educator. Today's event is part of a series that we're hosting that supports Promise's mission of catalyzing innovation and impact in early childhood. Show and Tell is designed to shine a spotlight on some of the innovative work taking place across the early childhood community, a community that has never needed innovation more than it does right now. While the world battles COVID-19, we know that families are under an unprecedented level of stress. And we also know how critical those first 5 years of life are, and the impact of stress is so great. Young children are particularly vulnerable right now. But in the midst of all of this uncertainty and strain, there are lovely stories of hope, like the one we'll feature today about MathTalk. Today's event is designed to facilitate connections. So let's get started with our conversation with Omo Moses. Omo's the CEO of MathTalk, an early ed tech company he founded in 2015. It was really born out of a deep love of mathematics and a rich family history of decades of teaching math in public schools and in economically distressed neighborhoods across America. Omo, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Kylie, and thank you to the Promise team for having me.
So let's just jump right in here. We know that math anxiety is widespread. Not everyone, unfortunately, shares your deep love of mathematics. And parents and teachers' comfort level with math plays a really critical role in how children feel about their own mathematical abilities and predicts math education outcomes for kids. And for children living in economically distressed neighborhoods, the lack of positive early math opportunities contributes to early and persistent disparities. I know firsthand as an early ed assessment developer that children's math knowledge at kindergarten entry is considered predictive of not only their future mathematics success throughout their years in school, but research has also shown links between children's early math skills and their later reading achievement. What's so special, I think, about MathTalk, that's my pitch for math, by the way, is that you really strive to inspire adults and children, again, particularly in economically distressed communities, to really embrace and enjoy math everywhere. So can you just briefly describe where you were focusing your work prior to COVID-19?
Yes, absolutely. So prior to COVID-19, we spent a lot of time working with children, families, educators to really see how we can help them actually see, enjoy, and explore all the math that is around them. And so kind of what led me to that journey was really as a parent, and I have a 5-year-old and 7-year-old, and thinking about the relationship I wanted to have with my kids around learning. And so I wanted math to be something that we enjoyed doing, something that was less formal. And so my son and I in particular spent a lot of time doing math while we're at a restaurant or riding the train or making breakfast or playing ball. And so I saw how as he got older, he really developed a math lens. And so when he went outside, he saw math in the world around him. And so he also developed a really positive math identity, and it went from me kind of trying to engage him in conversations to him prompting me to interact with him. And so we really I thought about, well, you know, this experience it shouldn't be unique to me. This is something that adults and kids can experience. And so how do we help folks kind of get over that hurdle, get over that anxiety to begin to see the math that's in their lives and be able to begin to explore that. And so with MathTalk, we really began thinking about that and reimagining how public spaces can be used and how those can become resources for early math learning, and particularly become playful spaces or playful experiences. And so if you can imagine a school playground or a park or any waiting space or a bus stop, these are all environments that you find yourself in as a parent and with your kids. And these are also opportunities to engage your kid in the math that's relevant to that particular environment. And so we developed installations. It came out of a long community design process in the neighborhood that I grew up in. And so we began putting installations in locations that we thought parents and kids would engage them. And so one thing we wanted to do was like how do you make math visible? So if I'm in the corner, how do you make that visible? And so the idea was that the installation and the signage can do that. How do we make the math accessible? How do we make it easy for people to do something? And particularly in a younger age, you know, as a parent, it's really language,
Yeah.
it's common ideas and words that you're familiar with. And so it's kind of decontextualizing or deconstructing math as some formal thing that you have to get a right or wrong answer, but it's really something that, you know, you can engage your child in through a conversation using common words. And so we spent a lot of time thinking about that. And so in addition to kind of thinking about physical spaces and interactions in physical spaces, we looked at how technology can increase the likelihood that a parent could have an interaction with their child. And we also have begun to explore augmented reality. And
Yeah.
again, I think that technology naturally lends itself to early math learning because again, math isn't necessarily visible, but with technology, with AR, you can begin to layer things onto the environment that helps people see what they can't see, but what is actually there and helps them engage and interact with it in different ways.
Thank you so much. And I know that obviously with the closure of schools and public spaces, the focus of your work has shifted more. And while I know you'll go back to that work once you're able to, you know, we've all seen families having to step up and support children's education like never before. And one of the beautiful things about MathTalk is your focus on providing ways to make math accessible, fun, part of everyday life, like you just described, helping families to engage in those rich conversations. So can you talk a little bit about the way MathTalk has, you've really kind of shifted the focus or sped up some of the work that you had underway to be able to support families while they're sheltering in place?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, we've spent a lot more time focusing on the digital side of things. And so we're working on an app. It's called Measure Everything. And the idea is that, you know, how can we use AR and that technology to help people and help kids measure with standard and non-standard units of measurement. And so just to give you an example, you know, with my kids, I might go out in the yard and, you know, they might want to measure the length of the yard. And I'll ask them, or my son will say, well, what should we measure with? And they can choose from panda bears or an anaconda or a grizzly bear or yards or whatever unit that they want to choose from, and then begin to lay that onto the ground and begin to see, you know, well, the yard is now, you know, 2 anacondas, or 2 anacondas is 4 grizzly bears. And so I think the idea, initially the idea was to kind of pair this with an installation. And so we're thinking about an estimation station as an
Yeah.
installation that can be in a park or in different places. And hopefully we'll get back to that. But also this technology, it's something, you know, you can do at the house, you can do it when you're out and about. And it opens up a huge kind of array of mathematical ideas, from counting to comparing. My kids, it's interesting, they're beginning to think about fractions at a young age, because
Mhm.
when you have part of an anaconda, you kind of want to begin to think about what is
Yeah.
that part and how do you talk about that part. Also things like perimeter and area. And so we have a great team, folks out of University of Chicago and other places that are really helping us think about, you know, how to make this more accessible to
Yeah.
families, and how to make this something that becomes kind of an enjoyable experience.
Yeah, I mean, using those non-standard units of measure, I think removes some of that anxiety. I mean, you're having conversations about fractions without really feeling like you're having conversations about
Right.
fractions, which can be, that could be an inhibitor for families. So that's awesome. One of the other things that I just really love about your use of technology is that we know for young children, they construct mathematical understanding through hands-on interactive experiences, discussions, meaningful application of knowledge, and everything that you're doing in your work really applies those principles. Can you just talk really briefly, I know we're coming up here on time, but about that complete vision for the MathTalk solution? I know you've got the public space piece, the family app, AR, hotspots, just bringing all this together.
Yeah, the way I've tried to simplify it is just think about physical installations that kind of live in the community and public spaces, and these become touch points for adults and kids to have positive early math interactions, and they're also access points for the technology. And then digital experiences, and the main platform is the MathTalk app that we've been developing, which would also house the different AR experiences. And so they're things that you can kind of go to your park or go to your, it's hard to say going anywhere at this point
Yeah.
because, but you can go someplace, you can have an interaction, but then you can also have a similar experience at the house. And, just going back to what you previously said, I think part of what I'm seeing is, just the ability to go from kind of a physical experience to a digital experience. And particularly with my kids, we've explored, well, how do you, write about or draw kind of this thing that you've experienced digitally, and how do we take a picture of it and then talk about it? And so really just blending kind of how learning can happen between these two spaces, and not just focusing on math, but it's like, the kids spend a lot of time drawing and writing and having conversations in relationship to the math ideas that we're able to now visualize and see.
Yeah, it's just such rich experiences. So how can folks listening today help support the incredible work that you're doing?
Absolutely, yeah. So we're raising 300,000 to improve our technology. So the app, we want to market that and get it in the hands of families, and also to develop installations. We're also looking to establish partnerships with schools and parks in the short term, but really with all of the family-facing institutions that work with the families that we want to serve and impact.
That's awesome. So to those in attendance today, you'll see a poll pop up on your screen here. And that is a way that you can connect with OMO. Remember, the primary function of these events is to facilitate connections between folks doing meaningful work in service of young children and their families like OMO, and to be able to connect him with all of you. So if you think you can help him with his fundraising goals, his partnership goals, or if you have another idea, take this next step to learn more. This is an opportunity to support the critical work of ensuring that children continue to learn even while their schools are closed, and on a much bigger scale to inspire the next generation of great mathematical minds and have all children and families loving math as much as OMO does. So thank you so much, OMO, for joining us today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.